Hi, this is Kat from The Artist Hustle. There's so much more than just going to class, getting a gig and auditioning. If you want to be considered as a professional in Australia and beyond, then there are a number of things that you can do to be seen. As a working professional, it has come to my attention that opportunities can be created by you. And what doesn't get talked about enough are the business practices within that. And these videos will show you what I mean. We have Catherine Alcorn from Tenacious Seed Presents to discuss with me at The Artist Hustle the entrepreneurial skills needed to create business and sustain yourself as a business and everything in between. So grab a pen and take notes because her information is priceless. All right, Kath, the question on everybody's lips. What does one do on a daily basis as a business owner in Australia?
Okay, great question, Kat. I would really love to be able to say that I have a very, very disciplined daily routine, but I am first and foremost a mum to a 6-year-old. So on top of running my own business and working from home, I am doing school runs, pickups, after school care, all of those sorts of things. But when I do move into that working mindset, I make sure my bed is made, I make sure I have a coffee, and I make sure my desk is tidy. I'm one of those people who just needs clean surfaces, spaces around her to be able to sit down and focus.
Yeah.
So I try to do those 3 things every day before I sit down. I then make a priorities list. There are, at the moment, we have multiple shows going on sale. So the priority list is imperative. It's signing off on contracts, briefing the graphic designers, because I'm now in a position where I can outsource. So as opposed to 27-year-old Kath sitting at her mum and dad's kitchen table and building a website opposed to writing a press release, I'm now in a season of my life as a producer where I employ and outsource people to do that for me. But I'm still very much across all of those processes. I know how I like my artwork to look. I know what messaging I like in my social media and in my press releases. So I often will draft, I'll draft artwork, I'll draft a presser, I'll draft some posts, and then I work in collaboration with those contractors to get it exactly where it needs to be, because they have skills that I just do not have. So yeah, it's prioritizing. It's making sure that I'm ticking off all of those things that I need to do that day for that show announcement, and there's always something to do. So I do need to be really disciplined with my time, which can be really tricky. Life happens, you know.
So that is an example of, as you said, I've got shows coming up. So where you're at on a business level is really activating a number of things towards those gigs.
Yes.
But when those gigs aren't there, what does it look like for you on a day like that?
When there are no gigs, I will either make the decision, because I don't just produce my shows, I produce other people's shows as well, other artists' shows. So on the days where I'm not focusing on releasing a show to market, whether it be mine or someone else's, I will either look at the day and say, do I have time for a bit of a break now? Do I have some time to get out and do some exercising, or go for an infrared sauna, go to the chiropractor, reinvest into my self-care, which is imperative. Or I will call a meeting with one of the other artists whose shows I'm producing, and we will have a strategy meeting, sit down and talk about where it is they see themselves, what they want to do, and then I will set about contacting those venues or those festivals and start the conversation. So you're always at a certain point in whether or not it's the groundwork and the relationship building phase and the pitching phase, or it's the briefing phase and the building phase, or it's the delivery phase. Yeah. So my days are always very fluid, because they have to be, because I'm not just working on one production and we've announced a national tour and that's it. There are always dates that are being added to my tour schedule and that I'm adding to other artists' tour schedules. So there are lots of different points at each stage every day.
Yeah. And then you've got the times when the gigs are booked and they're good to go, and the times when gigs are booked and they fall through for whatever reason.
Yep.
And so amongst that, there's also having to work out what the contingency plan is, and also because you have staff, or you've hired people
Yes.
now.
Yes.
There's a real responsibility there that sometimes can be heartbreaking for you, and I know that because we've shared that
Yep.
that space together of things not happening for whatever reason.
And that, just to explain to everyone, that means I've penciled you for a date. So you've put that in your calendar, and then for some reason or other, that date is no longer happening. So for me, communication is everything. Clear communication. That means to your employees, to your contractors, to the artists that you're producing for. As an artist, I need clear communication about where things are at in the process. I don't want to be like a Woody Woodpecker, as I have been in the past, going, where are we, what are we doing, blah, 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 blah. If that person who's driving that project can come to you and say, look, this is the progress, this is where we're at, I know that people really, really appreciate that. So having good communication skills is everything.
Mm-hmm. And then just to also go to the other side of your business, when you're getting auditions from your agent.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does that change your day-to-day as TCP Presents or Tenacious C, and now shifting into the actor doing the audition?
It's a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot. Again, that's where discipline comes in. So giving yourself planning, scheduling, your to-do list, making sure that you have achieved everything that you need to do, because you've always got a deadline. There's always a deadline of something, whether or not it's getting a ticketing form up with all of the information, or writing your show blurb, or tailoring it to the next town that you're playing in. And then an audition comes in and you're like, okay, tools down, I need to learn this material, I need to rehearse, I need to get in the mindset, I need to get my sheet music together. It really just does come down to discipline. And God, crossing your fingers and hoping for the best, because there's always a lot going on. And I guess it is, like I said before, that fluidity and being able to move and adjust in the moment with what's thrown at you.
Yeah. A lot of our industry, as much as you can bring certainty in one way, which is through your brand and your company, there is so much uncertainty around how it all comes together, what ends up getting confirmed, what you end up doing, how it looks, and possibly the uncertainty of not knowing when the next thing is. I mean, for you, that there is a sense of like, I can start to build what the year looks like, but the uncertainty of ticket sales and venues and, pandemic, or any sort of variable that you can't foresee until it's closer to the time. And then what do you do from there? Do you create some work elsewhere, or are there go-to people that you're like, you know what, I can be free for this and offer my services to you? Like, do you have those plans in place, or at least support in other ways?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I have learnt to trust the process over the course of my career as an artist in Australia, who since 2015 has worked and lived as a full-time artist in Australia, which is no mean feat, because it's not a huge market. It's a very tightly held market as talent in Australia, which is why I threw myself into producing and booking my own tours. And they're day to day. I'll use an example. Last November, I was approached by producers who wanted to hire me as an actor for a season of shows. So in November, I was penciled from April to June, and I was going to be employed for that season. And then about 6 or so weeks ago, they emailed and they said, the venues have fallen over, we're going to need to push that tour until the end of the year. So the cast and crew were immediately left without 3 or 4 months worth of work, which I would normally use that time of the year when festivals are happening. Because I'd been on hold, I didn't accept any other work. So I had a moment of real fear. I was like, God, well, how am I going to contribute to rent? How am I going to contribute to the household financially? And then lo and behold, my friends opened up a new venue on Victoria Road in Darlinghurst called the Emerald Room, and the creative director, Brennan Delahaye, contacted me and said, we want you to play this role in the show. It's 4 nights a week. Are you available? And I said, yes, yes, I'm available. And look, I think I'm
trusting the process.
It is absolutely trusting the process.
Yeah.
But had the Emerald gig not eventuated, I would have found something else, or I would have spent some time writing and creating, and just trusting that this downtime is going to be for a reason. I have to approach it that way, because otherwise I would be an anxious mess, in a bundle on the floor. And I know that's true, and we've been there. We have been there, okay? But again, it's living and learning, and it is about how you manage that roller coaster of the ups and the downs, and how you use that downtime, how you build your resilience through that time, which really only does build with the more experience that you have.
Yeah. Let's talk about mindset, because it is a huge component to making it in this industry, or at least sustaining yourself. So you've been in the biz for a while. Let's talk about it. How have you managed that space?